then the other thing, I did that 23andMe, and now you get notified. Have you guys done that yet?
I haven't. I think Lucas did it on ours.
Now you just get dinged all the time of like, oh, you have another cousin. You have another cousin. And then you look and they're all like fourth cousins.
Yeah.
But one of these days it's going to be a serial killer.
Oh, yeah. It's going to happen. We're going to find one.
And then we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, there you go. They were doing a true crime podcast.
Yes.
Those are the ones.
That's where you get the real numbers.
You get the real
my
views.
gosh.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to Screen Time. Today we are talking and discussing the film Fargo. And I guess that was your accomplice in the wood chipper. My name's Josh, and I have my co-host with me, Peter.
He's kind of funny looking as I look at Josh, but he's not funny looking at all. But that is one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
That's good.
And other co-host, Jared.
Oh, you betcha.
I feel like we got to do the accent better, though.
I know.
He's kind of funny looking.
I can't do the accent. I wish I could.
It's just funny looking.
That's your accomplice in the wood chipper.
There you go. That was good.
That was good.
Yeah, so welcome, Peter. This
Thank
is your
you.
first time on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's an honor.
Oh,
I was like, I know Josh, but I met Jared. I felt like it was a celebrity because I'm like,
Yeah,
I've seen
right,
you on your
right.
podcast, and I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Our tons of views that we have. Also, our adoring
I was
fans.
gonna say, it's
growing.
the guitarist from.
Oh.
Have you ever seen? I've ever showed you like the music video from the band he was in. He toured.
No.
Ever said that? Oh yeah.
Wow.
It was
Remind me to send that to you.
a long time ago.
Okay.
His other life.
At this point, it was pretty long ago.
Yeah.
And does he fit the guitarist look?
Oh, yeah.
I bet. Yeah, you got it. I
Yeah,
can see
yeah.
you rocking out.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Fargo came out in 1996, rated R, hour and 38 minutes, which
Yeah.
it was a little short.
Yeah.
A little
was,
short
yeah.
from a general, like, especially most of these films are just shy of two hours, and this was, well, an hour and 40 basically. So.
And yet, no scene is wasted, man.
No.
It just carries you right along to the end.
Yeah, for sure.
And I actually saw it in the theaters.
Oh wow.
And it's one of the few movies, I was thinking about this on the way over. It's one of the few movies that I wasn't expecting to see in the theaters. I think we went to go see, it might have been, one of the movies then, and it was sold out, because we couldn't, it was back before you reserved tickets.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I heard good things about Fargo. It had just come out and we went to see it. And that's so cool when that happens because it's such a surprise to see an amazing film. I've had that happen a few times and that was one of them.
Yeah, like no
that's awesome.
expectations
No,
going in.
didn't know a thing about it.
Yeah, and probably weren't even familiar with the director. I mean, unless you watched, like, I think Raising Arizona kind of was known.
I got buzzed, but
Yeah.
I didn't really know them.
Yeah, so like, yeah, because this was their first, like,
Yes.
like
This is definitely
really
their first big.
big break of
Yeah.
a movie.
And it's interesting because my wife is really sensitive to violent movies.
Okay.
Like she thought she wanted to watch Pulp Fiction, and 5 minutes into it, she's like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yet we saw that movie and she really liked it, which
Okay.
tells you they did it really well, even though it's a pretty violent movie.
Yes.
It is.
But
yeah.
they managed to add the humor and
Yep.
yeah. And
Man, yeah, that's one of the best.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You're laughing at tragedy. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
You really are. It's
it's crazy.
Yeah. So, so a little synopsis here from IMDb. Jerry, a small town Minnesota car salesman, is bursting at the seams with debt, but he's got a plan. He hires two thugs to kidnap his wife in a scheme to collect a hefty ransom from his wealthy father-in-law. Enter police chief Marge, a coffee-drinking, parka-wearing, and extremely pregnant investigator who'll stop at nothing to get her man.
I like that synopsis. Normally it's very short. That was
It's
way more descriptive. Yeah.
but also tells you more than like
Yeah.
the other ones are sometimes like, well, that doesn't tell me anything.
No, nothing. Yeah.
So basically, it's the same, all the same crew here, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
You know, writing and directing Joel Coen, Ethan Coen, cinematography Roger Deakins,
Yeah.
music Carter
Burwell. Yeah.
Burwell.
Oh, wow. Soundtrack.
Yeah.
First thing that grabs you.
Oh man.
That
yeah.
quote and the soundtrack. Mm.
Yes, definitely.
So production cost $7 million.
Wow.
So this is what like this is something I wanted to talk about a little bit because
Yeah.
so some of the early movies that were in those same range, and I kept saying these just don't feel like they even had spent that much money on it.
Mhm.
Just the quality. Of course, some of them were earlier when they were working with a different DP, and they. This is what I expected from like this is what I thought
Yes.
and this is well the Hudsucker Proxy too, but this definitely was like, oh, this is Roger Deakins.
Mhm.
This is what I because he
Okay,
I know you haven't been on this, but what was the
Barton
first,
Fink was the
Barton
first
Fink
one
was the first
for,
one he worked on though,
Roger
Yeah.
Deakins,
and it just didn't look like a Deakins film.
Right.
There were some hints of it in there, but especially the way the lighting was done, it was not to me. Like I was like, this didn't look like him. And then Hudsucker Proxy does, but it's a very different film. But this I was like,
You're
okay,
like,
yeah,
that's him.
this feels right. This
Mhm.
feels right. But yeah, so and then this also, going to the awards was nominated or won multiple. So won Best Actress in Leading Role.
Yeah, I still remember her marching across the stage. She's got, I don't know.
Yeah.
You were a lot younger then, but she gets up on that stage and walks off so proudly, like
That's
"I
awesome.
won."
Yeah.
Nice.
And then Best Writing Screenplay.
Believe it.
And then it was nominated
Deserved.
for Best Picture, nominated for Best Actor in Supporting Role for William H. Macy, and then nominated for Best Director, Best Cinematography, and Best Film Editing. So a lot of nominees, had the two wins. Yeah.
And William H. Macy, a local boy.
He
If you
is?
count Cumberland, yeah, grew up in Cumberland.
Did he
What?
really?
Yes.
Oh,
He is
wow.
from Cumberland and
Wow.
actually a big supporter of, they have like a theater there, like the Maryland Theater. And he's done a lot to
Really?
raise money for it.
I didn't know. I
yeah.
never knew that.
Yep.
That's cool.
He's one of their,
He's a Marylander, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Western Marylander.
Yet he did that accent so well.
Yeah.
He did.
Speaking of, so we've got Frances McDormand as our lead, Marge, and then William H. Macy is kind of the secondary lead as Jerry Londongard, and Steve Buscemi and Peter Stormare,
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 Yeah.
and Harv Personnel, John Carroll Lynch,
Mhm.
and then Kristen Ruddard were the main.
This is my favorite part of the podcast, watching Josh try to pronounce these names.
I try not to say too much unless it's one I know specifically. Like,
Yeah, I'm terrible at this, but
it's all right.
it's names. Names are names.
Yeah,
Well, these are doozy of names, too.
Yeah,
They're
they are.
character names. Lundegard.
I know. Yeah.
Yes, London Guard. Oh man, yeah. Did you? I don't know. I struggled with Yabashige from like I was saying it weird on the early
Shogun.
episodes. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if it was like episode 3 or something. I don't know, something like
Man.
that.
Yeah.
And did they finally correct you?
Well, yeah, he kept correcting me because I was like, for some reason, every time I'd see it, I was like saying it weird, and then
You were every time you
by
were
the
kept-
next episode. So it was just something that night that when we were recording that was like just not working, and then after that it clicked. But yeah, anyway, it's fun. All right, so just quick overall thoughts before we get into spoilers. First of
That's
all,
right. We can't spoil it yet.
well, just kind of just like
we will soon.
yeah.
I mean, you did mention the wood chipper.
But
in
no
your
one knows the
quote.
context right now,
Mhm, yeah.
So I've never seen this movie. So other than actually the wood chipper scene, like that scene, I've seen. Like obviously, like it's a famous scene,
Right.
So I've seen that, but like in general, like I've never seen this film. So how
Was
about
it
you?
one of those that you're like, I got to watch that? I got to watch that.
Yeah, like so. Yes, this is the first one of their movies, the Coen Brothers movies that I hadn't seen. That was like one of those that I'm like, know it's a classic and know I should see it, but I just never saw it.
Yeah.
So yeah. How about you? Is it?
Yeah,
We know you
I'm
saw
kinda-
it. You saw it in the
yeah.
theater.
I saw it in the
Yeah,
theater.
that's awesome. Yeah, I wish I could have saw it in theaters. I mean, I'm kind of the same because I've never seen it the whole way through until now, and but I've seen like scenes of it, and I was always aware of it, but just never watched it. And I don't know if we want to get into the TV show at all and see what everyone's experience with that too, because like
Yeah. Had you watched the TV show?
I've
Okay.
seen all that, and I've always wanted to like, I need to see where it kind of all started with this, but I'm glad we're doing
interesting.
it
So
now.
you did because like
That's kind of cool.
so I only
You
have
haven't.
watched.
Yeah.
I've only watched season 5 of the TV show.
Wow.
The more recent one, because when it just kind of hit, I had the time and I was like, I've heard this is good, and people were saying this season is the best one since season
Yes.
1 and 2.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
I watched that one, and also John Hamm and Juno
Yeah.
Temple.
Yeah,
like I was
that's
like, oh, I
perfect.
got to watch this.
Such a great one.
And yeah, so it was interesting to watch that one and then see this film.
Oh yeah.
Because I think I said to you, like, oh, there's so many Easter eggs.
Yes.
There's so many comparisons
Yes.
and throwbacks. And
Yes.
you're like, oh, really? You didn't know that. So did you spot them all?
Oh,
Watching?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, now I'm
there's-
like, this is so much like the episode of TV.
Yeah, right.
Well, but there's some from every season. Like watching this now, I was like, wow, there's stuff that they did in every season.
Yep.
That was stuff they did in
They
this movie.
pulled
It's
from
so
the film,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love
That's
that.
cool. But
Yeah.
and then also the music, because the music
Yes.
Oh, yes.
so used in the TV, at least this season 5.
Yep.
I'm assuming it in the other seasons. That like as soon as that came in in the
Yeah.
film, I was like, oh yeah, I
Very
know this.
recognizable. Now, also, I was wondering, are the Coens, are they just executive producers? It's like, were they involved at all with the show
I don't
much?
know. I don't know.
Because that's what I was.
I know they don't. If anything, they it'd be that because I know they're not the main like showrunner and director and stuff.
I was wondering if they did anything besides just executive
Like even
producer. I don't
direct a
know.
couple?
Yeah, because that would be
Maybe.
cool, but I don't know. Yeah.
I'll have to go back and look. Yeah.
Well, the only other thing I wanted to say, like overall thoughts, was like we were talking about this whole time that we've done the Coens so far is like each film has kind of been like polar opposite as it's gone.
Mm.
Like the feel of the film, and this again, like compared to Hudsucker Proxy is the one we just did right before this, was very like heightened and stylized,
and
and then-
funny and a PG.
right? And PG. This is our not heightened or stylized. This is very like real life. This movie,
Yep.
you know, and very different feel. Although we still have the humor, but that's Coen's. Like we always get that, especially dark humor, which is great in their stuff. I also really like what you mentioned already. The script in general, I think, is very tight because like it's.
Yes.
And I mean,
yeah.
this is one of the few times where, because a lot of times we're like, oh, this maybe could have been a little shorter, but this one I'm like,
No.
you could have kept this going. You know,
Yeah.
it's just you like you were saying, it's no waste of time.
No
at all.
waste
It's
of
great.
time, yep.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So definitely
Overall-
enjoyed it. Yeah. So what do you? I mean,
You've seen it a lot, probably. I imagine.
I have. It's one of those that if it's on, I'll watch it, and I can probably quote way too much of it. And I don't know how deep we want to get yet, but I think what I liked most about it, thinking back, and what hit me about it was you see yourselves in these characters. Like even William H. Macy, you can see his frustration with his lot in life, and yet at the same time, you also see exactly where he goes wrong and why that's so sad. Because perfect family life, like the kind of life that people want. He's got a good job, he's got a family, and yet he goes that direction, which
Right.
I love that they explore that. And yet you have the other hero, the hero who just could go that way, and she's the exact opposite. So.
right. Yeah. No. It's very grounded, even in the like absurdity of what transpires.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And to me, it's like, it's a exploration of like the different levels of evil. And because if you think about it, like there's a little crime that gets worse. There's Steve Buscemi, who's like that just annoying jerk.
Yeah.
Stop me if I'm doing spoilers, but we all know is Steve Buscemi, you know.
Yeah.
And then there's his friend. You said his name really well, the actor. I don't, but he's a psychopath.
Yeah, he is,
He's a
yeah.
psychopath.
Yeah.
And then
Says
then it-
like 5 words the whole movie.
oh
That's
my
it.
god! Yet he's so. But you think about it, like that's the other thing I love about Coen Brothers, but especially this movie. Like every character has such depth. They all, from William H. Macy to his father-in-law to his wife to even his son, gets a little bit of a
Oh,
great
man,
line.
yeah.
You know, and they're all really memorable, and you can just picture their whole lives.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into
Now we can-
let's get into spoiling things and talk about so what are some of your favorite scenes or things you didn't like?
I can start.
Yeah.
Well, first, one of the things that I love is that it draws you in, and then it surprises you because the hero doesn't show up until
Pretty far in,
pretty
yeah.
far in, and then she's so memorable. Like,
Definitely.
and seeing that, and not knowing that was coming at all, I was like, oh, who's this? Oh, she's cool. You know, like
Yeah.
you knew right away she was a good detective.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just signaled all that, and then even with, oh, I think I'm gonna barf. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm hungry. You know, all those little quirky things, and yet you just knew right away. Yet you'd just been through this pretty disturbing scene of like this guy killing this innocent driver, and we can all think of that moment too. Like you just feel so bad for those people turning around and they're gonna get killed, and you know it.
Yeah.
That kills me, but no pun intended. But but yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite scenes, was when Marge shows up and it gets revealed, and you're like, okay, this took a whole new different twist, and I love it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely well deserved that she was one of the wins, right? Was Frances McDormand?
Yeah, she won Best Actress.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I have the I don't really have too many notes, but it's I think close to the beginning of the movie, where they're at the dinner table. So it's Jerry. Is it his father-in-law?
Mm-hmm.
Is there, right? And then the son. What is the son's name?
Scotty.
Scotty. Okay. All right. I love this scene because I also was just related to me, because I would do the same thing when I was a kid. He would he eats his whole dinner, and then he's like, I'm going to McDonald's. and then he's like, what? And I'm like, I would do the same thing when I was age. I would eat dinner, and I'm like, no, I'm going to go now eat, at McDonald's, even though
hang
they're
out with my friends and eat.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, and then of course the father-in-law is like, that's, what are they doing at McDonald's? Like, and like, anyway, but I was just, that scene cracked me up. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah. So let's see. One of the ones I going back to even just the beginning, the opening scene with Jerry showing up at the bar, and then sitting down with these two guys, and just the way it draws you into this world of like, and you're like, this guy, because you can tell immediately, like he's trying to do something out of his comfort zone. He's not. He's close to what he's really doing.
He's not going to be good at it.
No. And then these two guys are like definitely shady, and you're like, okay, yeah. But it's just to open and start something. It's a great little start to the whole overall story. Really brings you into the thing, what's going on.
Yeah,
I think not. Oh, I mean, obviously you're already talking about Frances McDormand's character, how well the initial meeting we have, like how she introduced herself in the movie. But I think every character is just, from the very beginning, is just set up so well from the start, and then obviously continues as it goes. But I think every character is just done so well from the very beginning, even. Yeah, it
truly is sort of an ensemble cast, and I bet every single one of them looks back and goes, "That was a great film to be in," and I loved the character that I got to play.
Yeah,
because they all get what they're due, really.
They do, yeah,
and they get great screen time, and they all get good lines. It's one of those films,
Mm-hmm.
The other scene that I remember freaked me out was when the two guys show up when the wife's looking out and she sees them show up.
Oh man,
and they're just so clueless, but at the same time that's scary because they're coming up, looking in the window, and that just felt really real to me because I didn't watch it again like you guys did. I'm wondering though if I bet they didn't really have scary music or anything because it just felt like real life for a minute, and that made it ultra scary because you could just picture that happening. You're sitting there making a meal and you look up and two guys are coming into your house, and then it turns crazy.
Yeah, I don't think there was any music at all during that.
I'd love to know how they set that up, to make it feel so scary and yet so realistic.
Definitely,
yeah, because you're like, because she's kind of sits there a little longer than you think. Like you're watching, you're like, why are you not moving? There's a guy with a mask. And you're like,
but you would be that way. You'd be like,
you're like, what's going on?
What? Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you just bust through, and then you're like, and she's like, oh, I'm
well,
out
it would
of here.
take you a second. You're like, almost like, is this actually happening?
Yeah.
Like, is it, or am I in dreaming, or just did I fall asleep? Like, is this really something? Because it's just so out of nowhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had, that as my next one of the progression of all that, like from the moment they show up to do that, and then of course they chase her up, and then she's being a little smart about it, and then so she tricks them, and they think she went out the window, but then he realizes, and just as he realized,
brilliant.
it was a little cheesy with her running with the shower curtain on her. Like I was like, okay, come on,
well, that's the little bit they got to throw in. We were talking about the little bit of almost cartoonish, like
Yeah.
because they do
And
that
even her falling down the stairs. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so they got to add a little bit of that, and you know, like Raising Arizona was
Very
a lot of-
cartoonish.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But then she falls down the stairs, and then I thought maybe she was dead. Like I'm like, because I didn't know how it was going to play out, and then but then like they cut to like them driving, and of course she's making noise in the back of the car.
Yeah.
And then of course the scene with them getting pulled over, and then
Oh my gosh.
and then the kids driving by and like slow and being like seeing what happened, and then they speed off,
And you just know he's going to get
and,
him.
and you're like, how is he gonna get him? And then but then I guess they he just sees them because they swerved and flipped over, but just kind of like I guess the snowy roads,
Yep.
yeah, snowy roads. But and that and it's kind of getting a more cinematography, but the shots of like him driving fast, I mean, it gives you anxiety watching because it was like really how you can't see ahead of you, when it's
Yeah,
snowing like
yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
I mean, if you've driven in heavy snow like that before, like you kind of where you're like you shouldn't be driving that fast, and so like definitely gave that feel very well when they kept cutting back to that, and then
And I wonder what it was like to shoot in that weather, because they needed the snow, but I bet it was challenging.
Yeah.
Have you ever shot in snow?
no,
Yeah.
no, I don't think I have.
It is kind of its own character at the beginning of the
Yeah.
movie. It sets the whole tone, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, I had some notes of that, like some of the other stuff, like later more in cinematography, but like the scene where the Steve Buscemi's character, what's his name? I can't remember his name. He's
I looked it up.
driving the car into that parking deck,
Yes.
and then it's like he kind of drives and even fishtails a little bit, spins
Yeah.
out a little bit, but like there was no tire marks in
No.
the snow. And they filmed that, and he's like making all these marks.
I noticed
Yeah.
that exact same
And I was
thing.
like,
yeah.
I guess this was one take.
Yeah.
Like, there was no second take of this
It
because
has to be, yeah.
you can't reproduce the snow. Like, and they're not pumping that snow out.
Right.
This is just
Nope.
like this is like that
That's
was
a really
real
good
life.
point.
And I was like, so they set up for that and said, "Hey, do something here, and we'll just figure it out." And I don't know. Like,
I thought that same thing in that scene, and it like how long it went too. I was like, man, all right, this is just. Yeah, I don't think he probably planned this out exactly like that. That's just what happened, and they just kept it.
they're just like,
Yeah.
Carl's his name.
Carl, all right,
Carl
Yeah.
Showalter.
Showalter.
Carl Showalter.
Well,
All these names
Some
are great.
Showalters.
yeah, we do. It's from
The
Showalter Road. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, speaking of the snow, it's an odd scene to stick out in my head, but I love the scene where William H. Macy's scraping his car and just getting so mad.
That
'Cause
was
he
good.
just cannot get control of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And we've all been there like, oh man, I got to scrape my car this morning and drive to work. But he's in I loved how they did that because
Yeah.
it's just, you can just feel his tension.
Yes,
So
Yeah.
definitely a
and
memorable
then he
scene.
like throws it right, and then he gets composure,
and then he's back to
and then-
normal doing it.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then he's back to scraping it because he's like, I got
It's got to do it though.
and the shot right before that, I think it's right before that, where it's like the other parking lot where it's like establishes that. And that's
Yes.
I think I've seen that shot like
Yeah.
before and things. It's like so I had I don't know what, but like I'd seen that.
You talking about the very high view of the
And,
that was one that
And then
specifically
it also
stuck out to me.
I feel like I remember they're probably even like using that as inspiration. That shot. There seemed like there were similar shots in Severance, the TV show, of the parking lot.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't.
point.
I
Yeah,
think
how
there
do
was
you make
even.
a parking lot sexy, but they
yeah,
do
but
it.
Yeah. And because I think there was even snow in that, wasn't there?
There was,
Yes.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I feel like there was definitely I just
That's
had
a really good point. I bet you're right.
It does look very similar. Yeah,
Definitely an homage, I bet.
yeah.
So the scene with Marge having lunch with her old high school friend.
Oh,
That's
talking
the
about
one I
creepy.
wanted.
Oh,
That's my only other note. I had of
Yeah.
this scene. Yeah.
would
Go
you
ahead.
have kept it in the movie?
I don't know. Like, I mean, that's to say, like I was like, this is just as by itself as a standalone scene and the acting and all that stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
it's a fantastic scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But like at the same time, it's like really doesn't serve any purpose other than
just
the-
reinforces the fact that she's
she's
really empathetic and the world is weird.
yeah but also like intuitive too at the
Yeah,
same time.
yeah.
Like it's like she's because like and not and like he goes to sit next to her, and like she's
Yeah.
empathetic, but at the same time she's like, no,
yeah.
no, you sit over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like
Took control.
Yeah, yeah. So like it does, give some perspective on her character, but I don't know. But yeah, at the same time,
I mean-
you're like, it doesn't really
Right.
serve.
Continues to add to the tension, but you're right. Going back, you wonder if they had, if they had discussions about do we keep it in or not. And
Yeah.
Probably because it was just so well done. They
So,
said,
but
let's do it.
but at the same time, like when you're writing, like why do you write that scene in? So
Yeah.
I wonder if there was more context that got cut out.
I have a theory about this because this is why I made a note about this
Okay.
because I was wondering because when this scene happened I was like this scene's very out of place. Like
Yeah.
I'm like why is this in it? And then I was thinking about this interaction they have and how really it comes later after the scene when she's so I wrote down his name. What is it? Mike Yanagita?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Mike Yanagita. Yeah, 'cause he's on the
Mike
phone.
Yanagita!
Yeah, he calls her first. That's right. Yeah. So, let me see what I wrote here specifically. Oh, basically, I think the outcome of this, I think, and the reason why they kept it is, I think it's a very pivotal scene to where she then basically re-examines her interaction with Jerry, because
good point.
because later. Because of whatever Mike
You're
says
right.
about his wife, everything that he lies to her about that she doesn't realize at that point about his wife dying, he says to her.
Yes.
And then later
And she
she's
talks to her
talking to
other
someone
friend,
else
yeah.
and she's like, yeah, no, none of that happened. So then it makes her re-examine her interaction with Jerry earlier and then makes her think about, all right, I'm going to actually go back and talk to Jerry because he seemed a little. So I think because of that whole interaction, that kind of then propels the whole case forward because then from there he runs.
Okay.
So
I'm impressed. That blew me away. I think you're absolutely right.
I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of because I'm
Yeah.
like, that's because
It does
kind
give
of
her motivation to go, okay. Because that's right. Because up until
Yeah.
then, she was sort of just Jerry was fooling her, I guess, or she wasn't.
Right.
And then
She was believing him, like she was
Yeah.
believing his.
Yeah.
his-
I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't you? It's like, what
I know
would be
this
his
guy,
motive? Like,
right? Yeah, he doesn't really seem like the type,
Yeah.
but yeah,
That's great. Good job.
Good point.
You win. Ding. Can you do a ding sound effect?
there you go. Yeah, that was it. Though. I have no other notes.
Okay,
That was
Give
my
it-
only
give-
big one.
Give you a little point counter.
I got gold star.
Gold star.
I thought I was going to be impressive with the whole, categories of evil, but no, you
I
blew,
mean,
you
no,
blew that
there's-
out of the water.
No, that is good. The different stages of evil. Actually, I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of that in Fargo. Not only the
Well,
movie,
and
but the
And the
show.
show, right.
Yeah, the
A
show
lot,
does
yeah.
it, like the slippery slope of like just doing a real basic
Yep.
thing that like is not not necessarily wrong or like is like close to the line of, and you're just like, oh, this is in the gray area, and then it gets bad real fast.
Yes. It
Mm.
makes me wonder, would there be a Breaking Bad without a Fargo? That kind of storytelling. Because they do the same thing in Breaking
Yeah.
Bad. It's the whole idea of, even when they get to the end, they're like, no spoilers, but,
Yeah.
it's called Breaking Bad.
Right.
He's going to be bad. Right? There's no redemption here. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
But
yeah.
similar. And
Yeah.
yet it works. Like, we all watched it,
That's a good
so.
point. It probably influenced a lot of stuff. Yeah, because I don't think there would be a Breaking Bad without it.
Because
they would
I don't
have that-
remember
Yeah.
when it came out. It's one of those, like, would it be released today? I don't know. Would it be released in the theaters today? I don't know. But because it was one of those at the time, I remember it was getting good reviews. It was we actually drove to Gaithersburg to see it because it was one of those theaters that had
Because it's like it was more of an indie film.
yes,
right?
yeah, and then it did. I mean, I remember it did very well. I don't know if it was number one movie, but it definitely, obviously, then won the Oscar and all
Yeah.
that. So it's one of those that might have had a real lasting impact enough to greenlight some shows.
Yeah, I guess the first example, because we always think of Walter White as being that kind of character, but I guess it was before that, which still would have been after this, though, is The Sopranos.
Yeah,
I think
good
that
point.
would have been, because he kind of, as that show goes, kind of the same thing. So,
Yeah, taking a realistic look. What's the real side? What's the boring side of that life of crime? Where
Yeah.
this is more like this is a boring life in some respects that gets interrupted by crime.
yeah.
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 So, yeah, it seemed like it paved the way for a lot of stuff to come after it. Yeah,
Yeah.
this kind of thing.
So yeah, so I was gonna. So the next thing I have was the wood chipper scene. I mean, this is a classic scene, but But I love the
I can't believe we're laughing about the wood chipper
I mean,
scene, but
it
it's so
probably
true.
is the most iconic,
Oh, yeah.
like, of the whole movie.
but
yeah.
also you hear the sound for so long, and she's like wandering around and like keeps
Yeah.
like doing her thing before you finally see what he's doing. Now again, if you've seen it, because even though I never had seen the whole film, knowing that scene, I kind of was making an assumption that's where it's heading. You know? Even when I first saw them bunker down at that little cabin, I was like, oh, this is at some point the wood chipper's going to be here, somewhere. Anyway, but it's just such a well done scene of I mean, I can imagine, not having any of the like, hey, this film's been out forever and you just never seen it. For me, like of seeing that for the first time and like experiencing that with like not even.
Oh, I can't. And I think I felt immediately from my wife, because thinking, oh God, she hates violent movies, and they're literally grinding this person up in a wood chipper.
Yeah.
But then it was so perfect, just even with Marge with her pointing at her badge. And
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's the humor
she's on
in
her
there.
own.
Yeah.
Like she's got to take on this guy, and she's pregnant, and she's doing it.
But it's also funny because it's like, again, it's probably more realistic of what would. I mean, that's so noisy. There's no way you would know somebody walked up. But you're just doing your thing,
Yeah,
and
especially in that neck of the woods.
yeah. And you didn't expect anybody to stumble like a cop by any no means. And so so like then of course he can't hear her, so then she's like pointing and then he starts running, and then of course she has to shoot him.
Yep.
Which is
And then she has the speech.
Yeah.
I love that speech. This,
Yeah.
I could do the speech, but I have to look it up. But
Yeah.
I just remember it sums up the whole movie. And
It
it's like
really
one of
does,
those, like, because you want to say that to, even in real life, you want to say that to some people that just
Make bad
screw up.
decisions.
And it's like,
Yeah.
all for a little bit of money.
Yeah.
You killed all these people, and just for a little bit of money?
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? And,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful day.
It's like a perfect speech to even end the movie on, but then they do a little bit afterwards, right? But that's like a kind of like a closing kind of speech she does. But then they have a couple more scenes.
Yeah,
after
when she
that.
goes, doesn't she go home to her husband?
Well,
Yes, that's the final.
I have
right.
the last. That's what I have the last. Like,
Yeah.
well, I have the last. I love this scene with her and her husband, and then he's like, "Did you
Doing okay, Mark.
Yeah, well, but she's like asking about his art,
Yep.
and he's like, "Well, I didn't get the."
And we all know the duck stamps, right? I only got the 3-cent stamp.
Yeah, the three. Yeah.
But people use the 3-cent stamp when they don't have when they have an old stamp.
Yeah, no, it was great, and that side story, and even you don't know, like, or at least I didn't pick up on it. Like, he's doing some kind of art contest or some kind of contest. I don't even know if it says art contest.
You don't see him ever.
But you
really
never know
do.
what
No.
he's doing or what and then you find out it's like to be on the stamp, which is kind of cool. I mean, that's like that's big. I mean,
Absolutely.
even if it's a 3-cent stamp, that's a big deal.
Out there, it is a big. I think I've seen some news stories about it. It's a big deal to get on that stamp, right?
His that actor, John Carroll Lynch, right? Yeah. He's been in a ton of stuff, but so he was a part of this movie that I had not seen, because like I said, I've only seen like parts of this movie, and with him specifically, I thought something sketchy was going to go on, because he plays so many villains in things that I was like, he's got to be doing something. But no, he's completely just.
Isn't he the Zodiac killer in that version? I think he is.
Oh yeah, I think he is.
He plays the bad clown in one of the
American Horror. Yeah, he's in that too. Yeah, he does
he's
a
like
lot
one of
of
those
evil.
fantastic character actors. Yep.
Yeah, so I thought something was going to happen with that
You're
at
right.
the end, and then, but no, he's
you got to get some breakfast.
Yeah.
Man,
Great.
that was good too. That actually, well, I don't know, save it for cinematography, but that there where they're eating breakfast, then she gets up and leaves. He's still eating, but the shot is you see it her leave.
And then
Start
not
the car,
start, and
and then come
start.
back in.
Think
You know,
I
he's
need
like,
to
need to jump. Yeah, I thought that was the framing of that was
Yes,
awesome, because it
100%,
kept
yeah.
everything in, and that was cool.
That was another one of my favorite scenes. Just because, again, why put it in? But it's so
Right.
perfect because it just shows. Because the landscape is a character, but also I think if you've ever been to
The
that
culture
area,
of that
the
area.
culture
Yeah.
of that area, like
Yeah.
they're so used to dealing with the weather, And she's just, she's making it like, we got to jump the car and we deal with snow. And it's just,
Yeah,
they
I
just-
don't know if there's. I
they
mean,
power through.
I didn't really go into like, hey, is it or isn't it? But like, just I feel like at least more so than not, the roads were covered in snow. Like no matter who, where they
Yeah.
were driving, like,
Yep.
it was snow all the time.
Yeah.
And then I love just the little jokes. I don't know how much they intended it, but like, is any of the movie really in Fargo?
Yeah.
True.
I remember that coming up, I think, in the review that I read. It's like, ironically, nothing's really in
Yeah,
Fargo,
no, it's,
but
it's the town that what's his name's from?
oh, yeah, Paul Bunyan.
Paul Bunyan. Yeah, the Paul Bunyan town. Yeah, it all takes place there. Yeah, do they ever? I don't think
it's
they ever
like-
travel, or there's just outside of it, but never
Yeah,
actually
it's
in
Twin
Florida, yeah.
Cities. The Twin Cities.
Right,
Going up
yeah.
to the Twin Cities. Yep. But,
Wow.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
but it's a joke,
Yeah.
Fargo, because
Yeah.
it says it so well.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, any other scenes specifically before? I mean, I know you're kind of always. We've touched a little bit on cinematography, but
Yeah, I don't have anything else for notes.
yeah, anything else? Anything else major that stands out to you that from like just character interaction or anything you didn't like? I mean, I didn't really. Nothing major stood out to me for
Oh.
the first time viewing to be like, oh, yeah.
Other than just that the father-in-law just drives you crazy because, he's just got to be in charge. So that's why I love it's
Yeah.
my wheel. It's my deal, Wade. This is my deal, Wade. It just says so much about what he's been living with,
Yes.
having this overpowering father-in-law,
Yeah.
which I loved about this last season where the father-in-law is now the mother,
Mhm.
the
Yes.
overpowering mother. And I loved how they played with that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It was well, I've been telling Josh to watch especially season 1 and 2 because they're
so good.
incredible.
So good.
But it was so cool seeing little things from especially both of those seasons in this movie. Like this was season 2 was in burying in the snow the briefcase.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was something very specific to that second season. And I was like, wow, there's that. And then I want to say for season 1, it's probably when he's running out on the ice and gets shot. There was this very similar shot, I think, in season 1 of that too. That's like kind of that similar thing. So
Well,
I love
seasons-
that they do all that
Season
with it.
5, I mean, the kidnapping.
Yeah, that's the big one. From
It's
that.
like so similar
Oh,
in,
yeah,
in the house, and
totally.
she falls down the steps.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like all, and then of course they're trying to get in on the sliding glass door.
Yep.
All those things are it just and
I
the
was
goofy.
like, this is so.
It was definitely, but then like you said, like some other things were flipped around, like with it was the mother-in-law.
Mother,
It
yeah.
was like the overbearing. Of course, she ends up you kind of like at the
Yeah.
end
Oh,
in,
yeah.
in the series, but but yeah, it was
And that's
and then
we just saw her in Hudsucker.
yes.
Oh,
Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Okay,
Jennifer
so I
Jason-
didn't
she's in
know that.
Hudsucker.
I have not seen it. I'm gonna watch.
Yeah, you need to
Hudsucker
watch that.
Yep.
You need to watch that.
I'm not gonna watch your podcast before. I'll watch
there
it.
we
Then I'll
go.
watch your podcast.
Yes.
We
We knew nothing about it. That was one that was like
Going in blind.
a Coen
Yeah.
movie we had nothing,
Never
no
heard of
context
it.
for.
Even.
Yeah.
I actually really liked it. That
Yeah.
was really good.
Very
It's
cool.
interesting. Yeah.
What was I gonna say? Oh, then the was like there was something else that was like the then the police officer trooper interaction was similar too
Oh,
in,
yeah.
in season 5
Yep.
and this where like we had they got pulled over and then yeah and of course there we had the shootout. It was a little different, but
Oh, I gotta question your detective work there.
Oh, that was
DLR dealer.
yes. Oh, so good.
Is that the only scene that her partner's in? But because like that's so great. Yeah,
It's-
that interaction with her. But like that guy is just
Like you can
man.
tell, like she's been carrying him.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, he's like doing nothing.
No.
Exactly. You think about deputies out there, it's gonna be
Yeah.
probably slim pickings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've just talked about the cars kind of a little bit in Driving Snow, getting into like cinematography, the visuals, like
Yeah.
thought that, but even like some of the shots of it, just them driving down the like where you see the whole car, not just the POV shot there at night when he was chasing down, but just kind of interesting.
The only one I have that I thought of specifically was it when he gets pulled over. Steve Buscemi gets pulled over, and so the cop's still behind him. It's really cool how they line up. I don't know if you noticed this. The light is only on his eyes, and you can see it. So the cop car behind them And even when he's like moving around, the light stays because it's pretty dark elsewhere in the car. And when he's interacting with, because they have the wife in the back, and then you only see it. I thought it was really cool how they did the lighting there, because obviously that had to have been intentional with, because no matter where he moved, it kind of only stayed on just his eyes with the lighting, which is cool. I mean, we always talk about Roger Deakins.
Yeah,
great with lighting. So
yes. But that remind me even because then him trying to pick up the dead police officer, like didn't he get to do that? Didn't he? Or was that something else I watched recently? I feel like there was a similar thing with that like you had to try to move because someone was coming in the season 5 too, right?
Oh no,
so,
you're or are you thinking of Blood Simple? Because he does that in Blood Simple.
That's what. No, you're right. That's what it was.
Yeah.
They do. That's right.
Drives another car into the field. Yeah.
Yeah. Never mind.
I mean, they might do it in season 5. So I haven't finished season 5 of Fargo, but
you haven't?
No.
Oh man,
I got pretty far, but then I had not finished.
I mean, there are definitely cops getting shot.
Yeah. I was, but you're right. That's what it was. It was Blood Simple.
Okay.
Which would make even more sense that they just borrowed or stole from themselves.
There you go. Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
I mean,
Why not?
Why not? Exactly.
Yeah, we mentioned wood chipper. Some of the wide shots. Just thought that was interesting. The way they set up, the kind of, you really see the bleakness of that environment, right? Like it just kind of, there's a lot of snow, but it just kind of feels a little death and bleak and just kind of empty and just
And yet the people are like, I think of that. The other scene that I like is when the I think it is the deputy goes and talks to, I guess, the barkeep or the bar owner, who says, "Oh, I thought I should report that the guy was, this guy said, oh, I'm down there by the lake," and he basically is telling him the whole clue. And again, the deputy goes back, doesn't see it as a clue.
Yep.
Marge picks up on it, and it solves the case, right? But in that mind, I'm thinking they really did show that the people in that area, and I got to say, I've got my wife has a wonderful aunt. She's got a bunch of family in that area, and they talk exactly that way. And,
Nice.
"Oh, Stephanie, it's your Aunt Jeannie," and they are such a character. And I'm glad that they spotlighted that, because from even the two ladies that they meet in the bar that says, they're funny looking. The guy that's talking to the deputy, giving his whole story, and he gives the whole story, and you can just picture somebody standing there with a snow shovel telling the whole story just like that.
Yeah.
And then even DeMarge, and how she had to always get something to eat. And I just thought that they really did a good job of showing the landscape and how hard it is to live there, but also the people there are just such characters.
Definitely.
Well, I think the Coen Brothers are from that area.
Probably. Yeah.
Oh,
I get them confused with the other brothers from Rhode Island, right? Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, yeah.
What are those brothers?
The Farley
Farley
Brothers.
brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think
different movies.
I think
different movies.
Yeah, very different movies. Yeah. But I'm pretty sure if they're not from Fargo, they're definitely from that area.
I believe
I
they
didn't
are.
know that. Okay.
So they would be very familiar.
Yes.
But you saying that about the barkeep remind me also, like when it was Marge that was talking to the prostitute.
Yes.
That's
Oh, he's kind of funny looking.
Yes.
He was circumcised. Sorry, am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
In what way was he different?
Yeah, there you go. That is great. Actually,
Go Bears.
Yeah, go Bears. When Steve Buscemi is with the prostitute, and this was actually, I think, one of the funniest interactions where he says, how does he say exactly? He basically is like, "So how long you been in the prostitute business," or something to her when they're just sitting there at the table, like watching the show. Well, I was like, the way he said that was so
true,
good.
too. That was a great cut, because they're having sex, and then it's cut to they're watching just TV again.
Oh yeah.
Well, and then the second time around, he's like, she's like there, and then all of a sudden he just like ripped off, or like she gets ripped off, because in the
the guy whatever.
The guy from the shop or whatever, that like gave Jerry these guys his number. He shows up and threatens him, whatever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I guess the other, obviously the wood chipper is like the most brutal thing, but like honestly, his face getting like how much
Shot
of his
and it's
face
just, like,
got
walking like
That was
Yeah.
brutal. Yep.
Mhm.
Shooting the toll booth guy or whatever, the guy at the,
Oh, yeah.
the parking lot.
Mhm.
I remember that was because that was sort of sudden.
It was.
What
Yeah.
were you saying? Because he's like, I just came in here.
Yeah.
We had to charge him the $4 or whatever. Yeah.
But to your point earlier, like it's that slippery slope. Because I think at least, I think what it's implied, at least in this film, is that Steve Buscemi, when we start this film, he's never done this
Right.
like that at that level.
Yeah.
The other guy, for sure.
Oh my gosh.
But like he had never, because I don't even know if he's carrying a gun in the beginning, right? Like it's the other guy.
He's in it for the money, right?
And then it's the other guy that all of a sudden shoots the cop, and so then they've killed a few people. But then towards the end, when he's dealing with the toll booth guy, and he just off and shoots somebody. Then at that point, and you're like, oh, okay, you've already gotten to this. And,
You've turned,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
Yep. So watch out for those annoying jerks in your life because you never know.
Never know when they'll.
Those
Your
funny
boy.
looking people.
Yeah. So you mentioned the he buries the cash, like that scene, like from a visual standpoint, like that was really well done. Like him scurrying, like and kind of slipping and falling, and it's like a wide shot. And then,
yeah.
But then he gets there, and he's digging it down, and then when they look both ways. And it's like the fence this way, and it's just like fence forever and snow forever, nobody. And then he looks the other way, and it's the same thing.
You know,
That's good.
What is this guy doing?
Yeah. And then you're like, how are you going to know where you left this? And he puts the little like,
Oh my god!
yeah, yeah.
Oh man.
It's like he didn't think about it till he got it buried, and he's looking both ways, and like, how am I going to remember where I put this? Yeah.
It's the only option. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Of course, then I guess his intent was to like not let the other guy know that there was way more money than they anticipated.
Once again, being sneaky.
Mm-hmm. We talked about the tire tracks on the parking deck earlier, but again, just like I'm like, this was the first and only take they did.
Yeah.
See, I love that you think about those things. You're watching them. Shows your experience because you're like, oh my god, I couldn't imagine going back and putting all the snow over.
Well, or you can't. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what
right,
essentially like you can't redo that.
No.
So you've got to like just talk about it, and then but like especially in the snow, like it's once through and it's ruined. Like all the footprints are there, the blood, whatever you're doing.
It's blowing up the car in The Godfather, right? You get one take.
I would say,
They got
anytime.
budget for one.
Yeah,
That's a perfect example. Yeah, any kind of big explosion, it's like we can't do this again. This is it.
Get it right.
Yep.
yeah. And then the last one was just a thing I noticed anytime the couple scenes you go back to when Marge is home, which is like getting woken up in the middle of the night, whatever. They always made sure to like that had more of like warmer lights, warmer feel in those framings, and it was just like that versus like everything else is much more on the of course it's a lot of snow which gives that look, but like the colder bluer temperature type like look tone of the because it's all this like heavier cold interactions with people and death and things, and then but then at home it was always a little warmer. And
And that's interesting that he's the painter too, which gives you color from that. They definitely probably were thinking because it's not always all cold up there. It gets to be summertime; it's beautiful. But that's a really good point.
Yeah,
that reminded me when she is in bed and she gets the call from Mike. Was it Yanagita?
Mike Yanagita.
Yeah, and she's like excited. That's another thing, I guess. Like, was she into him before in the past? It kind of felt, or maybe.
I think there was something there,
or something.
Yeah, they hinted towards that.
And what's interesting is, so when she picks up the phone, then her husband like puts his arm over her, and you see his wedding ring, and it's like very clearly in the shot, like while she's talking. And I was like, that seemed like that was very intentional. That was cool how they do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's a guy.
Yeah.
If only he was in Shogun, then it would be like you can
There you
circle.
go. Yeah.
full circle.
He's like, I'm so lonely. That scene, man. He was. Hey, he stealed the show in that scene though. He was pretty good. That actor. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Like,
he was. It was funny.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. That, yeah.
We've all. I mean, I'm speaking for just me, but I imagine we've all had those moments though where you think something's normal, and then all of a sudden you realize, whoa, something's really weird. How do I get out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you're right. She knew right away to go. Nope. She knew just how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's all I had. I mean, obviously, the whole film is very well shot and very pretty shots. Kind of. I mean, in this general sense, like not most. It's not always pretty that you have blood spraying all over the place. But you know what I'm saying. Well framed, well compositioned.
I'm curious for you because you were wondering about like Deacon's older work, and you said you didn't really feel that as much in Barton Fink. You felt it in Hudsucker, so is that like his first one where it's kind of more his style.
That looked like his style, and this looked like his style.
Right.
There's just the other, like I said, the Barton Fink was a little weird, and
then I don't know what else he did in between because Barton Fink was 90 or 91, Hudsucker was 94. This was 96.
But
so I don't know.
I don't know how much that was. And
because I know the influence with the director.
Yeah, like I don't know
right?
how much that was like him not pushing back as much, especially that's his confidence. But I don't know, like there's a dynamic there, right? And then these guys are.
Yeah, but he's been doing it way before then, even.
Yeah,
too,
but
right?
like you first time you're working with somebody,
right.
You might not be as like, well, here's what I think as much. You might just be like, let you guys, what's your style? Okay, here's what you want. Okay, I'm gonna give you what you want. And then you start to see it more in Hudsucker, maybe as the second project they work on together, where he's starting to give them more input. It could also be like he came in late on that project because up at that point they used the same guy on all the films up until that point. So maybe something happened, and he had to come in late, and so he wasn't able to like influence the creative as much, and more just had to shoot it however they were planning it. Mm-hmm. And then Hudsucker, he was actually brought in.
From the beginning. Yeah.
I'm just speculating, but like there was a significant difference in those two from the stylistically, the lighting, and then of course this is right on what I would expect, and so I would be curious what happened really in the Barton Fink one. Like, was it something like that where he was just brought on last minute to actually shoot this, and he just kind of had to do what they already had planned and set up previously. So
well, and what's cool is going forward. It's still a lot of him again. I want to say, right?
I think so.
Big Lebowski next is that's Deacon's, right? Is it Deacon's?
I don't know.
I think it is at least that one. I don't know about Oh Brother Where Art Thou because that would be the next one afterward.
Yeah, I just know a lot. Yeah, he does work with them a lot.
Yeah,
which is
well.
Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Another one I saw in the movie theaters.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, probably after you saw Fargo, you're like, okay, these guys are bad.
Yeah.
Became an instant fan. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, and then Big Lebowski being their next movie after this. That's
oh my gosh,
that's a great one. They're
yeah. You have seen that one.
No, I have seen it, but it was like so long ago.
It was actually that's not one I saw back then, but when they did it at Film League, I saw it in the movie theater, and I'm so glad I waited and saw it in the theater.
Oh,
nice.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, this is interesting doing this director with Josh because you're. Pretty much nothing.
I was like, you haven't seen Fargo?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's nice too because I still have some gaps in my Coen Brothers films too. So,
we got the Coen Brothers, right? And then we got the Farrelly brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So next we have the Youngbar brothers.
Yeah.
When are you launching your next project?
Right. Okay.
Come on now.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
It's gonna have to happen.
Yeah. Someday. Yeah. At least. Speaking of, at least get him to score some stuff for me soon. And,
very cool.
Yeah. So there's music in it. I feel like again, it's the same guy.
It is.
I feel like he's slowly progressing as a creative, and this
for sure.
is
was this one of his first major films?
I mean,
most successful films.
Well, I don't know. This guy's scored every single one of their films.
Yeah, he's done.
And I don't know if it's in continuous because we haven't gone that far and I haven't dug into it.
No, I think he's pretty much with them for.
Probably has.
Yeah,
but
for all of them.
Like John Williams with Spielberg. I read Carter Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the early stuff, like there's hardly any music in it at all. So he's like not really doing a whole lot, and so it was kind of just interesting, and so when there was a little bit, you're like, oh, okay, there's a little bit of something there, but then there was, I honestly, the Hudsucker Proxy was the first one that really kind of started to
Had
have
the most music,
had some like
so far,
music,
until this one.
and then this one was like, but this was, I'd say, other than the yodeling in Raising Arizona,
Right.
this one was like the first one that really felt memorable.
Oh yeah,
and
right away. I love music and films, and that it just grabbed me right away with the scene, the tension, the car.
Yeah.
It's amazing how a car just driving towards you,
Yeah,
just builds that tension.
Definitely.
And then with the music was amazing.
Yeah, and because they just let the camera sit there so long, and
Which
like,
I think is part of the tension, right? Like you're like, what's going on? Why?
It stays on it longer than you think,
Yeah.
and you're like, what?
because that's
Makes you
reason one takes like long oneers or whatever they do, because you never a cut gives relief, right?
Yeah, good point.
And so whereas speaking to a previous director, Sam Mendes, doing the 1917, is that the right date? Yeah, 1917, and even though they had to do, there was lots of cuts in there, like fake, but like it looks, and so watching that movie, you feel that intensity and tension because it never gets
Just keeps
relieved
going,
because the shot never ends.
Maybe that's why I hated Birdman.
Oh yeah, that's another
Never
one.
got a cut.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's another one. Yep.
But 1970, then did you
Yeah.
see?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like that's
Amazing.
like amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
But it fits because you then are feeling what your main characters are feeling, like, right? Like that's that like intensity and like just pressure that they're feeling it, and you just never get a relief from it, and because they don't.
Well, there's only like one spot where it actually cuts to black.
Right.
Remember in that? Like,
Yes, when
so
he
it's
gets
like
shot,
there's only one intentional spot where they like want there to be a little bit of that.
Like
and then
you relief.
it's
on
a
your,
big tonal shift after that. Well,
now they
where
do
he is.
give it to you a little bit in a couple scenes. Like I don't know, like we talked about it when we covered it, but like he ducks in and he's with that little the mom with a little baby briefly, and he actually gives her some of the milk that they found.
Yep.
Right. So like, things calm down a little bit in that, and it's like, so they do give you some, they planned them in there, I guess, but yeah, it's I think underutilized sometimes.
Yep.
Because people want to cut.
Yeah.
I feel like there's too many cuts sometimes. Yeah, with a lot of newer movies too.
Right.
I mean, I'm guilty of it.
What, too many
Like,
cuts?
well, just because of commercial work, like
Oh,
it's just like we're like, we got to make it fit in 30 seconds.
Yeah, right.
Well, commercial, yeah. Commercial is going to be a ton of cuts.
Part of the fun of editing,
Yeah.
because when you just want it to just get it just right.
Yeah.
So then when you do that long take at the same time, that's kind of cool too, because if it works, it really works.
Yeah. But but even at the same time, like you leaving something in a 30-second ad and letting a shot sit there for 5-7 seconds feels like an eternity.
Sure.
Yeah.
Even just a beat can be. It's just
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't really have anything specific with this score, but it definitely is his best score so far out of all these movies. And
do you think it's fair to say, because I feel like I might be biased, but if you list the top 10 film composers, even top 5, he's up there now, wouldn't you think? He's done enough films.
like of all time,
Maybe
I
not
don't
of
know.
all time, but
Yeah,
maybe like
'cause-
currently if he's scored the film, you might go see it.
Maybe at this point, I mean, he has done a lot, but I don't know him well enough yet. Like, that's why I'm kind of excited to go through all these. And also, I need to look at what else he actually has has scored besides all the Coen Brothers movies. But yeah, I don't know, because it's not enough so far, because I've kind of like, when we've been going through these so far, there's not been a whole lot of music. I've liked when there has been music there. Like, even from the very beginning, Blood Simple, the main theme of that, which is only in it very little, most of it is the no score, but I really like that even. And kind of the same thing, even Miller's Crossing, it was like one simple theme that was in it, like the beginning and the end, that was it. Pretty much the rest of the movie was silent, or no score. But I don't know, with his, I kind of want to see where it goes from here, and revisiting a lot of these and seeing how it stacks up, because I don't know. I won't be able to tell until like we get through all these, and then maybe
Yeah.
I'll see.
Because I would say like he's definitely not a name I was familiar with. But,
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
yeah.
No, I wasn't as familiar with it. I got to see what else he actually did. Like, I don't know if he's done any like TV or anything else. I'm sure he has, but
I could be wrong. I think he did the Twilight movie, the first Twilight.
Oh, really?
I think. And I remember one of the reasons why that movie worked for me was because of the music.
Okay,
We could do a
awesome.
whole thing on that. I'll come back into a Twilight podcast.
There you go.
I'm not a big Twilight fan, but I did like the first movie.
I've never seen any of them. So
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, that could be a whole other conversation.
That would for sure be a Claudia.
it
Claudia
reminded
episode.
me.
She loves Twilight.
Oh, okay, we're in.
go.
Let's do it.
You and Claudia can do
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
We'll make Josh. Maybe we should just watch you watching it.
Oh man. Yeah.
I think you'd like it though. It's basically the first one has the feel of an indie movie. So
Yeah.
just putting that out there.
all right.
Yeah.
It just reminded me because we were talking about this a few weeks ago after the Oscars, but Ludwig Göransson,
Yep.
he won right for
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Oh yeah.
He has the same amount of Oscars as Hans Zimmer,
Wow.
and
Crazy.
he's like young.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because he's definitely up there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Oh yeah, he's definitely at this point
Because
on
did
the
he
list. Yeah.
do what's the space movie? The Christopher Nolan space movie.
That was Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, that
Hans
was
Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
Oh, yeah.
Interstellar.
Yeah, Interstellar.
That's Hans Zimmer.
Oh, it is.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
But he did Tenet, and he did
Yeah.
Oppenheimer, and then
Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then the funniest tidbit is
You say Mandalorian, I hear that.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep.
So the funniest tidbit is he did New Girl.
Wow.
So like,
oh yeah, you mentioned that. I was like, what?
That's so funny.
That's so random.
When I first watched New Girl, it wouldn't have been something I ever picked up on. But now I know his name, and then we've been rewatching it like the
You're
last
like-
couple months.
You
and
see the name.
It shows up. His name is like
That's
doing the
crazy.
score, and you're like, that's wild because.
Yeah,
But everyone starts somewhere, right?
that's
Yep.
right.
So anyway, just
Good money.
yeah, tidbit. Yeah, well, people rewatching it, he probably gets a little
Yeah,
all
hopefully.
the residuals. Yeah.
Yeah, and also those shows are like 20 some episodes a season. Like,
Oh,
they
yeah.
got
Yeah, at
so
least.
much of those. Yeah, crazy amount of episodes.
Make sure we get the so
We doing themes, and
and
messages.
messaging. Yeah, I mean Peter kind of already gave his.
Yeah,
thoughts.
you really
Oh, I'm
got
sorry.
that.
No, it's okay.
No,
It's
we-
okay.
I didn't know.
We just like at the
No.
end, just kind of like, okay, what do you think?
Oh,
is
you're
there
looking up
something?
trivia?
Yeah, I'm bringing
Okay.
it to the trivia.
Oh, okay, cool.
So just kind of like talking about it a little bit. But
Yeah, I think Peter nailed the themes and messaging of this movie.
so yeah, so like we just like at the end, we just like before we get into trivia, just say, okay, was the director, writers like were they trying to say something with this film? And I wouldn't say everybody always is, but then sometimes there's still something there, even if they weren't trying.
Well,
right?
yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's obviously, good versus evil. It's pretty simple, but at the same time, Marge Gunderson is so good. And like I was thinking about that on the way over here. Here she is pregnant, so she's battling that in her life. She's battling morning sickness. She's battling the weather. She's probably getting the biggest murder case of her life pretty close to when she's going to have this baby. It doesn't really fit in. And yet she just does her job, does it well, keeps a bright outlook despite the fact her car doesn't start,
Yeah.
and so I love the contrast there of, there are plenty of people that make the right choices and can live perfectly lovely lives, even in the middle of like the snowy tundra. And so that's why I love her character so much. So I think that, I mean, in the end, it's a good versus evil, but I think the good is very good. And then the evil, I just love that they're exploring that progression. But at the same time, it's also realistic because there's plenty of evil movies out there that are just made to scare you. This one, I thought, there's a reason why when I look at somebody like my wife that she enjoyed it, even though it's not her genre, because I think there was that hope of having this if it wasn't for Marge Gunderson, she probably wouldn't have liked the movie that much.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time too, it's good storytelling, moved right along, and the characters were really interesting.
Yeah, and I know we touched on this as well, but like, and seeing the characters like kind of progress, right? Like it, like the Breaking Bad of it,
Yeah.
right. Like
You're some of the levels of evil. Yeah,
yeah,
where
like
how
William
long
H
does it go?
Macy and Steve Buscemi's characters, they both started in a different spot. And then of course I always forget the guy's name in the the other evil guy.
The psychopath.
Yeah, the psychopath. You know,
what is his actual character name?
I looked
That
it
one I
up
don't
earlier.
know.
I wouldn't have remembered it.
but they all start at a different point, and then they slowly, slippery down the slope of making bad decisions and or like going into crime, and it's like you see that progression. And so I think it's so kind of natural and realistic that as a viewer, it's not as shocking than later when something more extreme happens.
Yeah, good point.
As much, because it's believable, right? And it's not, to your point about like some movies are just made, you got this crazy evil character that's just doing psychotic things right off the bat, and it's just like outlandish, and it's just there to scare you, right?
Yep.
Where this was not, the intent wasn't to scare you, the intent was to show a human making poor decisions, and so it definitely comes across differently.
Yep.
So
I think
so kids don't do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't
kids.
fudge the VIN numbers.
Yeah. I think the other thing is just, I mean, it's pretty surface level for this and pretty obvious, but like just greed in general, and like them kind of playing with like the classic, like money is the root of all evil.
Yep.
Like that's a huge thing in this movie, and kind of motivates not everyone, but a lot of the people in there, and why she has that great speech at the end. That's so good. Yeah.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so
I'm sure we got good trivia for this movie.
So the snowplow at the very end that drives past the motel at the end of the film was not in the script. There were signs everywhere saying motorists don't drive through due to filming, but a state employee ignored them.
Wow. And yet it was perfect.
Yeah. This you'll love. So Joel Coen and Frances McDormand and John Carroll conceived a backstory for their characters to get the feel of them. They decided that Norm and Marge met while working on the police force, and when they were married, they had to choose which one had to quit. Since Marge was a better officer, Norm quit and took up painting.
I love that.
That's
it makes
cool.
perfect sense. Yeah, that's awesome. Because you could totally see him being a cop too.
Yeah.
Like you could see
Yeah.
that happening, and he's like, "I'm going to stay home and paint, and now I'm going to help raise this kid."
Yeah.
So William H. Macy begged the directors for the role.
Really?
He did 2 readings for the part and became convinced he was the best man for the role. When the Coens didn't get back to him, he flew to New York, where they were starting production, and said, "I'm very, very worried that you're going to screw up this movie by giving this role to someone else. It's my role, and I'll shoot your dogs if you don't give it to me."
Wow.
He was
Dang.
joking. He was
Yeah.
joking, of course.
Of course, yeah. Well, he would have screwed it up if he tried. I will say, when they catch him at the end, that scream that he does, that just I mean, maybe that's what he did in his audition, like just showing how much, because that also just absolutely got to me, because it's so real. Like you can just picture it's over, and he has just ruined his
Trapped.
life.
Yeah.
She's dead. Poor Scotty, this good kid. And it's just, it's so tragic.
So this is great. The when Carl, Stu Buscemi's character, calls Jerry for the deal to be done, he tells him 30 minutes and we'll wrap this up. From that moment, the film's running time left is exactly 30 minutes.
That's cool.
I love that, because how many times are you watching movies, it's like 9 minutes left for the thing to blow up, and 15 minutes later that's still counting down, and you're mad at the world.
Yep.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Because they said that we're sticking to the 30 minutes.
There's a book called How to Talk Minnesotan
Oh my!
that the actors used to learn the accent.
It's so good to see you. I swear to God, Aunt Janny, I'll tell you.
The part of Carl was written specifically for Steve Buscemi.
Really?
Because he's been in so many other films in like a small role.
Very small.
Very small
like
role.
one scene
and
or
then this
something.
one.
And then they finally gave him like a...
Yep.
Had he been in the Reservoir Dogs? That probably came out before this. Right?
Oh, yeah. That's
what year was
That's
that?
a memorable role
that
for
is
him.
very memorable. Yeah, that would have been around this time, because he
Yeah.
also would have. What was the other one? No, I guess Reservoir Dogs was probably the biggest one around that time. Yeah.
There's only one scene shot on a bright and sunny day, and cinematographer Roger Deakins hated that it was sunny, feeling that it went against the movie's mood.
Yeah.
We like cloudy days, right? We always say cloudy's not bad.
Yep. Frances McDormand, looking around for a role as a killer or prostitute, was hesitant to play a pregnant cop. When I started working on it, I realized it was one of the best gifts that had ever been given.
Well, I remember that with her playing that because I didn't know her at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then you saw her at the Oscars and we were all rooting for her. And then she has this awesome walk across the stage. And didn't you watch her in interviews? And she's so different than Marge, not just the accent, but just the overall. She's just, and I remember thinking what a great actress she is because she just nailed that part.
And we were talking about this when we first started the Coen Brothers movies. Is the very first movie, Blood Simple, was her very first role.
Really?
So they kind of like started with her, and then I'm assuming, I think she pretty much has been, even if it's a small part,
one
right?
of them is married to her.
Yeah, right.
But like even I don't know how long. I mean, all of them so far, she's pretty much been in at least in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and then
either just voicing something off
Right.
screen or except for one. There was one that she wasn't. Cause
None
Yeah,
of
I
No
think-
Brother Where Art Thou, right? I don't think she.
I don't know. That's that we.
yeah,
haven't
there
gotten
might be some coming up soon that she might not.
Well, the ones we watched so far, there was one.
There
of them.
was one.
You couldn't find any.
Yeah.
William H. Macy was doodling between takes, and the Coens decided to use it for a scene. So the doodle was not doodling.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So even though the movie takes place mostly in Brainerd,
yeah.
There it is.
The Coen Brothers decided to call it Fargo, which is in North Dakota, just because they liked the sound of it for a title better than Brainerd.
I was going to say.
Yeah, that
which
makes
is not cool enough. Fargo is where Jerry Lungard meets the two hoods he hires to kidnap his wife.
I mean, it's fun to say Brainerd,
Right.
but it wouldn't have sold the movie.
No.
But, okay, getting a little philosophical here. It's kind of cool because at the same time, with the quote that they open the movie with, where they're saying it's a true story, but not a true story. And we know it's not really a true story.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's Fargo, but it's not Fargo.
Yeah.
So again, I love the deception.
Yeah, that fits perfectly.
Yeah, just right here. 3 weeks into shooting, Joe and Ethan Coen revealed to their cast and crew that this was not, in fact, based on a true story.
Yeah, I remember that at the time because people thought, was this a true story?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
really did.
And then, let's see, Frances McDormand wore a pregnancy pillow filled with birdseed to simulate a pregnant belly. She says that she didn't deliberately try to move in a pregnant way. It simply came as a natural response to keeping the extra weight balanced. I guess if it's heavy enough, then you've got. They started filming in January of '95, when the region was experiencing a second warmest winter in 100 years.
Jeez.
Filming the outdoor scenes had to be moved all over Minnesota, North Dakota, and Canada, and much of the snow was artificial.
Really?
Wow.
They had to have planned some of that, though.
Wow.
You always want some artificial snow at a shot.
Yeah, because I mean, none of it. Sometimes you can tell when it's an artificial. This doesn't. None of this seemed.
No, it felt
yeah,
real.
it looked
Yeah.
real.
It
Yeah.
did look real. So Frances McDormand's been married to Joel Coen since '84.
Wow.
They have one child together.
So literally right after Blood Simple, that was '84. So
Wow.
married like right after her first role. Huh?
Hit it off.
Yep.
When you know, you know.
Yeah.
Wood chipper used in the movie is now on display at the Fargo Moorhead Visitor Center.
Okay. We'll have to go visit
Go
it.
to
sometime.
Fargo.
Yeah.
Is the leg still sticking out of it?
Yeah. Right. That would be.
Peter Stormare.
Yeah.
Peter
Stormare. He's a
Late-
psychopath.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
later formed a band called Blonde from Fargo. As,
Oh,
He
nice.
is the blonde from Fargo.
as a homage to his breakthrough American role.
I was trying to think. He's been in some other things.
Oh yeah, he's been in a lot. So wait, this was his first American movie though?
I guess so.
Huh?
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah.
I've
Is he
recognized him since.
Swedish?
Probably.
Something like that. I can't remember. Yeah.
So this is for those, especially you probably do. So Gene Siskel, when screening the film, leaned over to his fellow critic and co-host Roger Ebert
Yep.
we grew up with our dad watching their show.
Oh, yeah,
like,
I know it. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Loves
like,
Siskel and Ebert.
yeah. And anyway, so I always find it funny.
Mm-hmm.
He leaned over and said with a smile, "This is why we love movies."
Oh, that's cool.
And then Siskel and Ebert went on to name it as their best film in '96.
Yeah.
Nice.
I do remember them
Really
liking it because I always loved reading Roger Ebert's reviews because he was one of those when you come out of the movie, you go, I really like that. And you go home and read his review and you're like, yep, that's why I liked it. He
Yeah.
just nailed it. He knew how to do it. Gene Siskel once in a while.
Yeah.
Frances McDormand accidentally left her pregnancy suit in her trailer one night, and the silicone breasts froze,
Oh,
and they bursted.
I think I heard about that.
Man.
So can we go on forever? Like, so this
Yeah,
is
right.
There we go.
trio.
We'll leave on that one.
Exploding breasts.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
Any last thoughts on this before we wrap things up?
Just, thank you for inviting me to talk about one of my favorite movies.
It's been a pleasure having you
Yeah.
on the podcast.
Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah,
And I love the choice of Jared's drink.
Mm,
There
yeah.
you go.
Get the
He's
Trying to
just
make him an
point it out.
influencer here.
the ghost. Hey, and shout out to anyone
Yeah,
who knows
there you go.
Cheerwine.
This
Cheer
is
wine,
new
too.
for me, the Cheerwine.
Cheerwine, only available in certain regions of the East Coast.
But then you still have to stay hydrated too. So we got
we got the
water
water with the Believe sticker on here.
Yeah.
Yep. I love it.
Got to represent the Ted Lasso.
Mhm.
All right. Well, what did you guys think of this film? If you'd seen it before or not, or what did you think of our thoughts about it? If you want to send us any feedback or comments, you can email us at feedback@screentimepod.com or leave a comment in the YouTube. You can subscribe on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you'd like, you can follow us on Instagram.
I have an idea. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
They could leave in the comments.
Yeah.
Who would they put in a wood chipper?
Oh. Who would they put in a
Tells you, maybe I'm more William H. Macy than Mark Gunderson. I don't know. But
There you
I don't
go.
know, Peter. Who would you put in a wood chipper?
there are days.
There are days.
There you go. Everyone.
I think you know a
comment.
few.
Oh, yes. We won't say it on the podcast.
Yeah.
We don't have record of this.
Yeah. It's only on the internet forever.
But yes, who would you put in a wood chipper? Let us know in the comments or email if you want to keep it anonymous.
Yeah.
You can email us.
Yep.
But yes, or send us a DM if you follow us on Instagram.
There you go.
So you can follow me at jyoungbar.
Peter Bickford, Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'm at Jared Youngbar.
All right. And thanks for listening and joining us. And we'll talk to you guys next week.